Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today because we have some very exciting General Hospital news to talk about, and it's definitely worth the wait. I got to tell you, folks, I've been following General Hospital for more years than I care to count, and right now the folks in Port Charles have me glued to the screen like never before. Curtis Ashford really went and stepped in at this time, and I mean big time. The man let jealousy eat him up inside until he couldn't hold it back anymore. One minute he's standing there in the Metro Court Gardens arguing with Isaiah Gannon, and the next thing you know, wham, Curtis throws a punch that sends Isaiah straight into a table and rolling across the floor in front of every single person who was eating or chatting that day. I sat there in my living room just shaking my head thinking, oh, buddy, you've done it now. What really gets under my skin is how Curtis built up this whole mess in his own head. He's convinced himself that Isaiah had something to do with Jordan's accident, even though there's not a lick of real proof. On top of that, he couldn't stand seeing Isaiah getting a little too friendly with Porsha. Jealousy is a sneaky thing, my friends. I've watched it wreck good people plenty of times in my own life, makes a sensible man act like a hot-headed fool. Curtis has always struck me as the steady type, the one who thinks before he acts, but this time his heart got ahead of his good sense. And now? Well, he's got himself a restaurant full of witnesses who saw the whole ugly scene. Isaiah didn't throw the first punch. He was the one on the receiving end, face smashed, body hitting that table hard before he tumbled down. You can't just brush something like that off. I reckon Curtis is staring down some serious legal trouble, and it's coming faster than a summer storm. Isaiah doesn't seem like the kind of fella who's going to turn the other cheek and walk away. He stood right up to Curtis during their face-off and made it crystal clear he wasn't backing down one bit. Mark my words, that young man is fixing to make sure Curtis feels every ounce of the consequences. I can already picture the lawyers getting involved, maybe even the police showing up at Curtis's door. It's the kind of mistake that doesn't just fade away, it sticks to you like burrs on a hound dog. And in a tight-knit place like Port Charles, where everybody knows everybody's business, this kind of public blow-up is going to spread like wildfire. What I love about this storyline and what keeps me coming back to General Hospital is how real it feels. These characters aren't perfect saints. They're flawed just like the rest of us. Curtis loves his family. He's fought hard through tough times, but he let his pride and his fears get the best of him. I keep wondering if this mess is going to cost him everything he's worked for, his marriage, his friendships, maybe even his freedom for a spell. At the same time, my heart goes out to Isaiah too. Nobody deserves to get knocked around in public over somebody else's suspicions. Life's too short for that kind of nonsense, you know? I've seen enough in my own 60-odd years to know that what goes around comes around, and Curtis is about to learn that lesson the hard way. Still, that's what makes this show so special to me. It's not just drama for drama's sake. It reminds me that even the strongest folks can stumble when emotions run high. I'm sitting here hoping Curtis finds a way to own up to his mistake before it destroys too much. But knowing how General Hospital works, the real fireworks are just getting started. Isaiah's not done yet, and neither is this story. I'll be right here on my couch, coffee in hand, cheering and worrying right along with all of you. These Port Charles folks feel like old neighbors by now, and I wouldn't miss what happens next for anything. What a wild, wonderful ride this has turned out to be, hasn't it? I tell you what, folks, the May 18 episode of General Hospital hit me right in the gut because everything came crashing down on Curtis Ashford faster than I expected. Porsha Robinson didn't waste a single second. She marched straight over to check on Isaiah, and you could see the pure anger flashing in her eyes when she talked about what Curtis had done. I sat there thinking, oh man, Curtis, your wife is not letting this slide. She was furious with him, and honestly, I don't blame her one bit. That kind of jealousy turning into violence is just plain wrong, and Porsha made sure Isaiah knew she was on his side. Curtis might have thought that punch in the Metro Court Gardens was worth it in the heat of the moment, but I guarantee you he's regretting it now. One minute he's swinging because he's convinced Isaiah caused Jordan's accident and got too close to Porsha. The next minute he's looking at handcuffs. Sure enough, they brought in Detective Joe Fitzpatrick, played by Jonathan Bennett, making his first appearance, and he showed up ready to do his job. I could almost hear the click of those cuffs in my living room. The man didn't mess around. He was there to arrest Curtis for the assault, and every sign pointed to that being exactly what was coming. What really stuck with me is how Isaiah had every right to press charges, and I'm glad he's doing it. He's a surgeon, for crying out loud. When he hit that table and rolled across the floor, there's a real chance he could have hurt his hand or his arm. That kind of injury could end his whole career, and that's just not something you brush off. Curtis crossed a line he never should have crossed, right there in front of a whole restaurant full of witnesses. I've seen enough hot-headed mistakes in my own life to know they don't fix a thing. They only make everything worse. I've been watching these characters for years, and I keep hoping Curtis will learn something real from this mess before it costs him his marriage, his friendships, and maybe even his freedom. Port Charles is full of folks who let their emotions run wild, but this one felt different. It felt serious, like real-life consequences were finally showing up. I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat wondering how much more Curtis is going to lose before he wakes up and realizes jealousy and wild accusations don't solve anything. At the end of the day, that's what keeps me coming back to General Hospital. The stories feel so much like the ups and downs we all go through, just with a little extra drama thrown in. I'm rooting for these people to figure things out, but I'll be right here watching every twist. What a ride, huh? Can't wait to see what happens next. I tell you what, folks, just when I thought Curtis's troubles couldn't get any bigger, the show drops another bombshell that's got me leaning forward in my chair. Jordan Ashford is about to hear some terrible news, and it's the kind that knocks the wind right out of you. She's been wanting that hit-and-run driver to pay for what happened to her, but she sure isn't going to be happy with the way Curtis went about handling things. I sat there shaking my head because Curtis's jealousy and wild accusations have now made everything 10 times worse for the people he claims to love. You know, many of us watching are going to let out a little cheer when those cuffs finally click on Curtis. It feels like justice served up hot. The man had turned downright dangerous lately, swinging at people and pointing fingers without a shred of real proof. I've seen plenty of hotheads in my day, and Curtis crossed a line that you just don't come back from easy. He tried so hard to make Isaiah pay for something the young man never did, and in the end, all Curtis managed to do was commit a crime himself. That's the real kicker, isn't it? The very person he wanted to punish ends up the victim, and now Curtis is the one who has to answer for it. He deserves every bit of what's coming his way. What really tugs at me is how this mess is going to ripple through the whole family. Jordan's bad news is tied straight to Curtis's foolishness, and I can already picture the hurt and disappointment on her face. Porsha's anger, Isaiah's determination to stand up for himself, Curtis behind bars, it's all piling up. These four are headed for even more trouble down the road, and General Hospital isn't pulling any punches. I keep thinking how real it all feels, like the kind of family drama we've all watched unfold in our own lives, only with a lot more twists. At the end of the day, that's why I keep tuning in. These characters mess up, they pay the price, and sometimes they learn a hard lesson or two. I'm hoping Curtis wakes up before he loses everything that matters. But knowing Port Charles, the drama's only getting started. I'll be right here on the couch, coffee in hand, cheering and groaning along with the rest of you. What a wild, heartfelt ride this show gives us every single day. Can't wait to see how it all shakes out.